Is it making it to France without the ferry? Is it $1 million? Is it just enjoying life? So I want you to think about these things and think about what makes you successful or what you think would make you successful as I go on. So for me, it's all about life. It's all about enjoying life and enjoying the process and enjoying the everyday. So a lot of people ask me about my English Channel swim, and just to reference it, I'm number 756 to successfully cross the English Channel. Since 1875, when Captain Matthew Webb did it the first time, and he then died going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. I hope not to do that. So yes, it was one day of my life that this event took place, but it was actually several years in the making. It probably started when I was about 6, and I was going across the GWB with my mom and dad, and I looked in the water over the bridge, and I said, I want to swim in there, and I got that's nice, Bonnie. So I always had that little seed of like maybe there was something more out there than just swimming at the Hackensack Y, which is what I did growing up. So let's go back to about 2003, and I was working at the JCC in Manhattan. I was actually working at a pool. I was teaching swimming lessons, kind of realizing this was the place that I wanted to be. And I thought about, well, I've been swimming, and just to, I've been open water swimmer. I had swam in college, and after college I got back to New York, and someone asked me, hey, we're doing this relay around Manhattan, swimming around Manhattan, and someone dropped out, would you like to join? And I was like, yeah, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to jump in the East River? So, so that summer, as soon as I got back, got with this group of people, and I did a relay in a boat around Manhattan, swimming around the island, and I was just enamored. I was like, this is amazing. I had no idea people actually do this. I always wanted to, but I didn't know people actually did it. So there I was. I finished it as a relay, and what's the first thing I want to do? I'm like, I got to do that by myself. So I took the next year, and I swam a lot, I trained, and I did the swim around Manhattan. So I come out, 8.5 hours later, covered in East River gunk, and nobody wanted to touch me for a long time. and I thought, that's going to be it. That's going to be the end of my swimming career. I did something really cool, and now I don't have to worry about it anymore. But unfortunately, that was not the case, because I enjoyed it way too much. And not the actual swim, but actually leading up to it, because every day during that year, I got to wake up and go to swim practice before I went to work. So no matter what happened at work, I had already had an awesome day at the pool. So I started thinking about what's next. So as I was swimming more and more exciting events. I was going to California, I did the Alcatraz swim, I went down to DC, I did the swim from Virginia to Maryland across the Potomac. And some people started saying, hey, you should consider the English Channel. And I was like, oh, no, that's way too much, that's way too much. And eventually I read Lynn Cox's, have you heard of Lynn Cox? She's an amazing open water swimmer who has swum across the Bering Straits. And she wrote this book on swimming, it's called Swimming to Antarctica, and she did an article in the New Yorker about her swim in the English Channel. And it was miserable. She was being hit by waves, she was nauseous, she was cold, there were jellyfish, there were dirt, there was just awful things, and I was like, I'm in. I gotta do this. So now here we are, it's about 2003, and I was like, you know what, I gotta start doing this. So I started doing research, and I found that there's actually people out there who like doing these things that I like to do. So I had to do some research on boat captains. I had to do research on, laws governing England and laws governing France and laws governing the water in between. So I'm gonna get that in a second. So there was a lot of time I spent, experimenting with what foods could I eat and not throw up, what couldn't I eat, what, how tight did my swimsuit have to be before it cut me, and how loose could it be without rubbing off my skin. So a lot of time spent doing all of these things, and my favorite, shivering. So while I may not look that happy in this photo, I gotta tell you this is one of my happiest moments right here. Okay, this is me at Brighton Beach on a training swim. It was probably in January, and it's about as cold as it looks. And it was pretty awesome, right? So this whole time, so a few years are going by now, and I'm still working, I'm doing what I enjoy doing, but this is what I love. I love being in the water, I love swimming, I love the feeling that it gives me, the time to be alone with myself. So I don't know how many of you have actually given yourself time to be alone, and not in the car listening to music, not, you know, just taking a walk and listening to your headphones. I mean alone, like in the water, nobody to talk to you, just your own head, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what goes on in my head. So just to recap, so this whole process that I'm talking about included all the planning, the preparing, the experimenting, failing, so learning what I couldn't do and learning what I could do to get around those failures, accomplishing things, and I'll talk about some of the things that led up to the actual swim, which for me were actually more exciting than the day itself, and then swimming and eating and a lot of shivering. And just to give you an idea of where this is somewhere between England and France, and that's me right there. And that was definitely in my head. That was definitely in my head. So, what was I doing right here? Everyone tells me, oh my gosh, you were shooting for the moon. That's amazing, right? Well, sure, it's amazing, but there's more to it, right? It wasn't just that day that shooting for the moon meant going from England to France without the ferry. Okay? So, there I am again. There's little Bonnie. There's a giant ferry terminal thing over there. So what did I think about while I was in the water for 13 and a half hours? Okay? I thought about everything that it took to get up to this point. Okay? I didn't just get on a plane and end up in England and jump in the water. I mean, in some ways I did. But, but what did it take to get here? Well, let's go back to this for a second. Okay? The planning, the preparing, the experimenting, the failing, the accomplishing. I want to pull out a couple of stories in there. Okay? So one of the most exciting parts of the training was actually getting to wake up in the morning and go to swimming for 4 hours. And I know that may sound miserable to you if you're not a swimmer, but think about what you love to do and what would you be super excited about to wake up and know you had 4 hours to do it. Is it reading? Is it painting? Is it finishing the New York Times crossword puzzle? Whatever it is, for me it was swimming. Okay, so I took a little trip. I moved down to Florida because I didn't really want to swim up here for that long. I didn't want to be distracted by all of the things, all the family and the friends that were going on. So I moved down to Florida. I made myself a little cushy space in Fort Lauderdale. And I trained at the Hall of Fame pool, which is down there. And just to give you an idea of what Fort Lauderdale is like, it's kind of like, for those of us who are all from here, it's kind of like where all your grandparents live, and I felt very comfortable there, but like 60 years too early. So I ate dinner at 4 p.m., and I watched TV, and I went to sleep, and I woke up and I went swimming for 4.5 hours, 4.5, 5 hours, and then I worked at a restaurant on the beach. I gotta tell you, that was one of the greatest experiences ever. So this whole time, you know, people talk about jobs that they hated, and I was like, I was working at a restaurant on the beach. It was kind of awesome. So what did I learn through all of that? So the best part was looking back. So here I am in the water, and right here, about here, it's pretty miserable. Okay, I think I had a little, am I there yet? That went through a lot. It was pretty miserable. I was cold. I was a little nauseous. I was a little bloody from my swimsuit straps rubbing against me and the salt. But I thought about what it had taken to get to that point. So here I was. I picked up all of my stuff out of New York, and I drove down to Florida, and I moved to Florida. And I found all these friends, and I found things to do. I found a different lifestyle, and it was amazing. It wasn't what I wanted to. I didn't want to stay there. No one's ever going to catch me in Fort Lauderdale again. Maybe once or twice, but or maybe in about 60 years. But what did I learn there? It was so exciting to live in this lifestyle, and I knew everyone else was, you know, miserable going to work, and here I was, the best shape of my life, the best feeling of my life, and it was just awesome. It was just awesome. So in order to finish this training, because obviously, as you may realize, Florida is not like London and England and Calais and cold places like that, I had to go to San Francisco. So I went to San Francisco after that, and I did similar to what I did in Florida. I kind of just showed up in San Francisco. And I was like, here I am in the Bay, I'm gonna just jump in and do this. So one of the qualifications in order to be allowed to swim the English Channel is to do a 6-hour sub-60, we call it, which is a 6-hour swim in sub-60-degree water. Okay, so in my travels to San Francisco, I found some other people like me who were into this sort of thing, and they said, you know, we can help you with this. We can sign for it, we're gonna get a Zodiac, and we're gonna do a swim. So the swim that I chose to do was from the Golden Gate Bridge around to Candlestick Park. So if you've been to San Francisco is a little peninsula. It's kind of like a big loop around the peninsula. So I was so nervous for this swim. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was so nervous for this one swim, for this training swim that nobody really knew about, but I couldn't, it was beside myself. I was just going to be freezing. I was looking at the water temperature in the buoys. It was clocking in at a balmy 57 that morning. So I thought of all the things that I did to get to that point. And I was like, okay, I know that if I eat one Pop-Tart, I'm going to be good. If I eat 2 Pop-Tarts, I'm going to throw the second one out. So it's like, okay, so check one Pop-Tart. I have since, improved my nutrition skills, but I'm going to go with the honest story that I did have a Pop-Tart. It was cinnamon and it was delicious. So I got myself where I was like, okay, I can do this. I got in the water. So actually, we didn't get in the water. We get in a boat. We get in a little Zodiac boat, and we take a little trip out to underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. And I'm bundled up in a parka and a hat and a scarf, and kind of just trying to put off what the inevitable, what's about to happen. So so we got to underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and jumped off the boat, and it was 57 degrees, and I started swimming. And I was looking around, and I swam past Alcatraz. I swam past some boats. Swam past a few seals. And I was like, why was I so nervous? Like, this is awesome. Yes, it was cold, but the sun was coming up. There were sea creatures. There were things going on. There were people in the boat who were monitoring my progress that were so excited to watch me swim. And so I realized, wait a second, if I can do this, maybe I can actually cross the channel. So I finished my 6-hour swim. We got all the way around to Candlestick Park. As soon as that 6-hour mark hit, I remember my boat captain of the boat said, "Do you want to swim back to the club?" And I was like, hell no. I'm getting in that Zodiac. But so that was one of the things I thought about in the middle of his channel was, you know what? I did that. That was even colder than it was here right now. I can keep going. I also thought about every single person that I had talked to and met along the way that said, that's so amazing that you're doing this. I wish I could do something that I enjoy so much. And for every time I wanted to stop in the middle of the channel, I thought of one more person and took one more stroke. And they said, okay, you know what? You're right, someone else is out there. Then I started going a little batty in the head. And I had to finish, kill some time in there. And so let me tell you, I can name boys' names from A to Z, girls' names from A to Z, desserts from A to Z, breakfast foods from A to Z. As I said, you start getting into your mind and it's pretty amazing. So I replayed movies, I replayed scenes. So, what did I learn? So I thought about this whole moon concept too, that people saying you're shooting for the moon, right? Well, that's a scary thought, because what if you don't make it? What do I do? What am I going to do in here if I have to get pulled out a few miles from the coast of France? What am I going to do? Right? And so I realized somewhere in the middle, somewhere amidst that my life was already successful. I may not reach the other side, but I've already had the most amazing journey getting there, learning about myself, learning that there are people out there that, one, do things they love, and two, other people who want to do things that they love. And so I was already successful there. Seriously, am I there yet? That was an actual photo of me being like, I really hate you people up there on the boat drinking your warm tea and wearing my blankets. So again, I took everything I had inside of me, I borrowed ahead on the next several years of my life of things I would have inside of me, and I made it to France. However, I would like to talk about this phrase and what this means to me. I did shoot for the moon. I did get there. But in the meantime, I met so many amazing people. I met so many stars. I met so many comets. I met so much amazing space that I like to think of it as shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll still be among the stars. So that means you can take anything that you're doing, whether or not you actually get to France without a ferry, or whether or not you actually finish the Sunday New York Times in 30 minutes, 30 seconds, right? If you're doing it and you enjoy doing it, that's what makes you successful. And that's how I feel. So what now, right? So what now? I took all of this love and what did I do? Did I go back to a corporate job? No. Okay? I have a relatively, what we like to call pedigreed education from, a high-end university, from a prominent business school, and I'm now a swim coach, and I love it. I teach kids, I teach adults, I teach people with special needs, I teach people who never thought they would swim to just get in the water. And I gotta tell you, some of the successes that I see are the 84-year-old grandmother that came to me and said, I really want to be able to get in the pool with my grandkids and I can't swim. And I got her to get in and be comfortable and be able to go under the water, and she was so excited that she was going to be able to play with her grandkids in the water. So she didn't swim to France, she barely even swam across the pool, and I felt her success just as much as I did when I crawled up on the shore in France. So this is my version of success. I'm living it right now. I'm not a millionaire yet, but what I do have is a successful and fulfilling life. I work, as I said, I'm teaching children, I'm working with special needs, and all I do is, when I wake up in the morning, is think about how lucky I am to go to work and do what I enjoy doing. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information about myself and to share my story. There's plenty more stories I can tell you from the middle of that channel. It was pretty miserable. Ask me about jellyfish and my intense fear of them at this point. But all in all, what that got me to do is get to a place in my life where I know that I'm happy and successful. So I want you to think about that. So take my phrase that, again, everyone may tell you to shoot for the moon, but think of it as a whole context. Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you're still going to be in an amazing place. Thank you very much.